And look at that headline over my shoulder. The SEC legends have been announced, and the king has been added. The one and only Barry Switzer played ball at Arkansas, won 3 national championships at Oklahoma, a mere 12 Big 8 titles, and he added a Super Bowl championship to all of that. And one of the most engaging personalities the game has ever known. Coach, first of all, great to see you, and congratulations for yet another honor.
Thank you, Paul. You know, it's good to be on the show. I was totally shocked, surprised when Joe Castiglione, our athletic director, announced this. We were having a reunion, our 50th year reunion for our 74, 75 national championship teams when he did this. And I was sitting here off to the side, and he turned to me and said, "You're going to be our legend and in the SEC." And I said, "Hell, the only reason you're doing that is I'm the oldest guy that's still living that coached here. And that's what I have to be, the reason why." But no, it's not. It's because of all the players and coaches and what we contributed to our tradition here at Oklahoma. We had some great teams back in that era.
Coach, I was in Houston a number of years ago. I think it was the Paul Bryant Award. You were being honored there, and I was looking around it, and the number of amazing All-American, historic All-Pro players that showed up. I mean, I realize they're your players, but it was a testament to some of the greatest names. And I think I know it's hard sometimes to appreciate, but you've had a pretty amazing career.
Well, Paul, what happened is that I came along at the right time, and I did the right thing at the right time. I was recruiting all the best players at all positions, and a lot of the coaches weren't doing that. I was, and this is in the 70s, I was recruiting black quarterbacks playing for me in 72. The SEC and the Southwest Conference weren't even recruiting black players in all positions, and they were, recruiting some skilled guys and all. But no, I was doing the right thing, and I was dominant. And Texas, Texas is a great recruiting area, and south of the Red River is only about 80 miles, 90 miles from here. And so I spent a lot of time down there getting a lot of great football players in that state, and that's why we were successful. Oklahoma wouldn't have the tradition of college football if it wasn't for the state of Texas, I promise you.
No, it is remarkable. Well, Coach, I would like to ask you a little bit about today, because we were all so excited to see OU come into the league. Saw you out there this summer when I was with Boz, another one of your infamous players. But things are troubling right now down the road from where you sit, not too far down the road. What's your assessment of the Sooners at the moment?
Well, we're short in a lot of areas, Paul. We need help all across there. Defensively, we're probably a lot better than we are, obviously, offensively. We're short offensive line, with running backs, receivers, quarterback, every area of the offense needs help. And it's going to take a while to get there, but I think that they can. I don't know. Yeah, I question it sometime with NIL, whether we can or not, whether we can compete against Texas every year. They can raise more money than we can. We're a small state. We only got 3.5 million people, and it's going to be difficult, more difficult than it is for the University of Texas. We've got 35 million people, a wealthier state, more people to be able to support the programs. But we'll have to wait and see. And NIL is I'm still a mystery for everybody, because we don't know where we're going to end up. And hopefully someday we'll get something that has some stability to it that we all be able to have a chance to be successful with.
Coach, I mean, you had some of the greatest players, and as I mentioned, Brian Bosworth, were some of the greatest characters of all time. But it was different then. You see what's happening around you. You saw Saban walk away. You've seen others close to it. What do you think it's like to coach in this era right now?
I think that when I saw Nick Saban leave, and he said that I think something about a 19-year-old kid coming in his office wanting to know how much he will pay him, keep him going in the portal. Nick knew it was time for him to get the hell out, and I think I can understand that and appreciate that. When I recruited back in the 70s, 60s, I was recruiting 60s in Arkansas. I started coaching in 1960 in Arkansas. I was with a lot of Coach Bryant's people, Jim McKenzie, Pat James, all these guys. I learned from they were my mentors, and I coached with those guys, and so I look back at this and say, back then we're recruiting, we will have kids 4 or 5 years, mothers and fathers, if they had a father, they want them to get an education. And these kids today, that's not the goal anymore. You get an education to go to college. They all think they're going to play pro football, and that's not true. That's not going to happen. And if they're not going to be out there playing within a year or two, they're in the portal or going somewhere else. I don't know how in the hell they expect to get an education. And they're all got a different goal and objective, and I don't think they're going to obtain it because only about 2 or 3% of them ever get to pro football. So it's totally a different game today. I said this early on, and I really got the trademark on it, Paul, is that I said NIL. You know what NIL means?
What's that?
Now it's legal. Now it's legal. It's what goes around comes around. And back 50, 60 years ago, obviously you did anything for a player, helped a player, it was illegal. But today it's not. And I obviously coached in an era that I helped kids when they needed help. I didn't induce a player to come to Oklahoma, but once they came a part of my family, there were going to be things that come up that you had to help a kid. And I always told them, if you come be in my family, my program, I'm going to treat you like you're one of my own. And I still do. Keith Jackson told me, Coach, it's been 40 years ago. You told me, my mama, that, and you're still helping me today. But I said, well, you're mine for life. And when you recruit them, you got them for life. And that's been my approach and always has been. And I think that's one of the reasons I was successful is that the kids believed in me. They knew I'd help them if they needed help when they were here. And I'm not talking about buying a damn car I'm talking about if they needed to get home, there's emergency, a funeral, whatever, they got to fly somewhere. Hell, I'm not going to let them. I'm going to get them there. I'm going to treat them like they're one of my own kids. I think most coaches help their players when they don't offer them an inducement to come to school. There are a few schools that do that. We all know them. A couple of them got the death penalty. But coaches take care of their players once they're in the program. I don't let any guy calm me. They come in my office, try to calm my ass. I'm like, hey, I'll run their ass out, and they know they'll get rid of it hurt. I don't put up with that. But I know a kid has got problems. He comes and talks to me. I investigate that. Hey, I'm going to do what's necessary to help eliminate that problem for him. And that's the right thing to do. It's truly the right thing to do. And the NCAA didn't allow you to do that back then.
I'm curious because I'm just so transfixed by your stories. But we get hung up. People like me. Saban's the best coach of all time. Bryant's the best coach of all time. Bud Wilkinson. You played for one of the great coaches of all time. You didn't succeed him, but you came a few years after Bud Wilkinson. You coached in the era of Bryant. I realize there's no easy way to pinpoint it, but since you are considered one of the greatest coaches of all time, I'm really curious what you think in terms of who some of your peers were.
Well, I did know Coach Bryant. He's from Fordyce, Arkansas. I grew up about 40 miles from where he grew up. I've been at many clinics. I've been at many banquets where I sat beside Coach Bryant. Had the opportunity to visit with him many times, and that was in the 60s and the 70s. I knew all these guys you just mentioned. But it was, it was kind of neat to know that, Bud Wilkinson and Duffy Doherty and these guys back in their day and be a part of that. But, I've met a lot of, obviously along the way, I've been out of the game now since the 90s when I was coaching Cowboys. I left the Cowboys in 97, I think. And I've watched the game from afar. I'm not afar, but I'm close by. I'm only a mile from the campus, University of Oklahoma. I'm across the street from the campus. I'm a mile from the stadium, what I wanted to say. And I stay close to the game. I know the guys that do a good job. I recognize it. I kind of laugh about this, Paul. There's two, what Navy and Army have in common, two things they have in common today. What's that? They're both undefeated and they both run the wishbone. They still are very successful. And I remember playing Army here a few years ago, and if we hadn't had Kyler Murray in the fourth quarter, and overtime, and Kyler Murray wins the game in an overtime with his running ability. And after the game, I'm leaving the stadium. People look at me and says, "Coach, what happened? What happened?" I said, "Well, you saw it. They had it 45 minutes. We had it 15 minutes. And Army ran the wishbone and should have won the ball game that night here in Owens State when we had a pretty good football team." And we're struggling right now. You know that, Paul. We're not. We need a lot of help in a lot of areas, and I know in time, we've got good coaches coaching those positions. I know Bill Bidenbow, he got a double name to mention. He's been around here a long time. Mike Leach told me if he went anywhere, he wants him as his offensive line coach. He's produced some good players here. Right now he needs some help, and we need some help in running back. We need some help at receiver. We need some help at the quarterback position, and I think that in time that we hopefully will be able to solve that, but they better do it in a hurry. Jerry Jones and I coached Jerry Jones at the University of Arkansas. I coached Jimmy Johnson at University of Arkansas. Jimmy was on the staff here at Oklahoma for 4 years. People don't know that. Jimmy and I were very close. Jimmy played at Arkansas, and he got his first job as Picayune, Mississippi at high school football. He went 0-10. I called. He went 0-10. He really did. So I called Jimmy. I said, "You get Mary Kay in the car. You get Brent and Chad, his two boys. You all drive to Wichita, Kansas, and you go to Wichita State University. As soon as you walk through that door, a guy there's a defensive coordinator named Larry Lacewell.
Oh my goodness."
You know it with Coach Bryant. He's from Fordyce, Arkansas too. Lacewell was on Bryant's staff back in the 60s, he was back in the 60s. And he said he will hire you on the spot if you get there. So that's how Jimmy got in college football. As he followed my advice and went with Wichita State, and Lacewell hired him. And we got him eventually. We got Lacewell and him back here at Oklahoma with us. But under Chuck Fairbanks, I talked Chuck into doing that. Chuck didn't know who the hell they were, but I did. And I talked him into doing it. And Chuck was, I was assistant head coach, charge of offense back then. I spent a lot of time with Mal Moore when Mal Moore was offensive coordinator for Coach Bryant. You know, when Texas ran the wishbone, Oklahoma ran the wishbone, I know that Coach Bryant knew what the right thing to do was, because he put the wishbone in after he played us in the bowl game. And that started the 73 season, something like that.
Right.
I can't remember, something about that era, about that time. And so I spent a lot of time on the phone with Mal, talking about defensive schemes, perimeter, how we blocked them and all that. And Mal and I became great friends. And of course, I tried to hire Mal Moore in 1984 to come here, and we won the Big 8 Conference Championship, won the national championship the next year. Mal told me, he said, "Hell, I know you all that good." And I said, "We're pretty damn good, Mal, every year." And I think he went to Notre Dame. I think
he did. He did.
He went to Notre Dame. He'd already committed to them, or he would have taken the job with me here. But I wished he had it. But Mal was a great guy. We lost him too damn soon. I know that. But I knew all of Coach Bryant's staff and all those guys, and of course, we had a great respect for him. In the 60s, Jim McKenzie, because he played for him at Kentucky, and him and Pat James both. And they had Vito Babe Pirelli, they had Walt Yorski, they had all these guys I knew. That was back in the 50s when they played with Coach Bryant at Kentucky. And he had some good teams. And you know, Oklahoma's got on the board over here, he's got national championships up there. One of them is 1950. That was when they gave the awards before the bowl games, and they ended up playing Kentucky in Sugar Bowl. Kentucky just beat the hell out of Oklahoma, who won the national championship that year. Pat McKenzie Jim used to kid about that all the time when they were here. They ought to take that down, put us up there. But anyway, that's a long time ago. A lot of people don't know who the hell we're talking about here, but I do, and I'm glad I lived in that era and I got to know all those guys.
Coach, I want to thank you. Congratulations again. I literally could talk to you all day, every day, because I was fortunate enough to be around all those guys as well. And all the best. I hope to see you soon. Stay well. You're too valuable.
Okay, I will. I'll try. I'm 87 years old, Paul. I'm a hell of a lot older than you are. I'm pretty good shape for that too. But I got the job because Jerry Jones knew me, he trusted me. I went there. That was when free agency started. They started to siphon players off. When I got there, I inherited a great team that Jerry and Jimmy put together. And when you have well, I had him first, but the first player picked the draft is Troy Aikman. He was from Henrietta, Oklahoma. He came here and played for me before I put Terry Donahue. I talked Terry Donahue into taking him. He didn't want to take him because he doesn't want to hang out anybody else's trash. That
Oh, sure.
transfer usually got problems. But anyway, I had all those guys, and it was a good team. I inherited that. Probably should have won 2 Super Bowls while I was there. But good to talk to you, Paul.
Thank you, Coach.
And we'll do it again, okay?
I cannot wait. The one and only, the King, Barry Switzer, joining us from Norman.